There are mornings when you wake up with a weight you can't fully name, a tightness in your chest, a heaviness behind your thoughts, a quiet feeling that something is already wrong. Before the day even begins, you lie still for a moment, hoping it will fade. But it doesn't, because the truth is simple. You're not waking up tired. You're waking up afraid. Afraid of trying again, after failing before. Afraid of repeating mistakes you swore you'd never repeat. Afraid of moving forward and discovering that you're not as strong, not as ready, not as capable as you hope to be. Fear of failure has a way of meeting you before your feet even touch the ground. It whispers in the silence. It tightens your breath. It slows your steps, convinces your heart to expect disappointment before you've even begun. And because this fear wakes up with you, it shapes everything: your thoughts, your pace, your decisions, your energy, your willingness to start. You don't procrastinate because you're lazy. You hesitate because fear tells you that trying is dangerous. It tells you that failure means you're not enough, that mistakes make you unworthy, that setbacks define you. And when you carry that belief into every morning, your life becomes smaller than your potential. But there is another truth, one that almost no one teaches you. Fear is strongest at the beginning of the day, not because mornings are fragile, but because mornings are the doorway to your next identity. Every morning is a new starting point, a blank page, a reset of your possibilities. And fear knows that beginnings are where your power lives. So it tries to meet you early, before clarity returns, before courage wakes up, before your true self has a chance to rise. This is why you don't need a complex plan to overcome fear of failure. You need a morning ritual that grounds you before fear can take the lead. A ritual that recenters your mind, realigns your identity, and reconnects you with your strength before fear has the chance to shape your entire day. A ritual so simple you can do it half awake, so gentle your mind won't resist it, so powerful it begins rewiring your relationship with fear itself. For 7 days, you will practice this ritual every morning, and in those 7 days, something begins to shift, not outside of you, but within you. Fear will still speak, but it won't lead. Doubt will still appear, but it won't define you. Failure will still exist, but it won't scare you the way it used to. Because when you understand fear, when you see it clearly, when you meet it before it meets you, its power dissolves. In the next block, you'll learn the emotional truth behind the fear of failure and why it rises strongest in the morning. Fear doesn't wake up with the sun. It wakes up with you. And the morning is the moment when you feel it the most. Not because you're weak, and not because you lack courage, but because the first moments of the day are the most vulnerable ones. Your mind is quiet. Your emotions are unshielded. Your thoughts have not yet found their rhythm. And in that softness, fear sees an opening. This is why fear of failure feels heavier in the morning than at night. Because nighttime gives you distance. Morning brings you face to face with everything you want and everything you fear you might fail at. Fear rises early because the morning is the threshold between who you were yesterday and who you could become today. And thresholds always carry uncertainty. Before your first step, fear rushes in to protect you, or at least that's what it thinks it's doing. Fear doesn't appear to punish you. It appears to prevent pain. Pain from trying and failing. Pain from being judged. Pain from repeating old mistakes. Pain from proving your doubts right. Fear believes that if it stops you from trying, it is keeping you safe. But safety and stagnation look very similar in the early hours of the day. That's why the morning is the playground of fear. Because before you move, before you act, before you create momentum, your mind fills the empty space with possibilities, and fear fills it with the worst ones. All the unfinished work, all the old disappointments, all the expectations you carry. They rise with you. They crowd the doorway before you take your first step, and fear uses them to convince you that today will repeat yesterday, that you'll fall short again, that nothing will change, that beginnings are dangerous. But here is the deeper truth. Fear is loudest before movement because it loses power. After movement, it knows that once you take even the smallest step, its voice weakens. It knows that once you start your day with intention, it can't control the rest of it. Fear thrives in stillness. Fear fades in motion. This is why mornings must be protected, not with intensity, not with unrealistic discipline, but with a ritual that meets fear before it grows. A ritual that centers your breath, grounds your identity, and reminds you that trying is not dangerous, it's courageous. A ritual that teaches your mind to trust you before doubt gets the chance to talk. Because the truth is, fear doesn't ruin your day. Unprotected mornings do. In the next block, you'll discover the emotional roots of the fear of failure and why understanding them is the first step toward dissolving fear from the inside out. Fear of failure does not come from the future, comes from the past, from the moments where you tried and something hurt you, from the memories your mind never fully processed, from the expectations you once carried, and the disappointment that followed. Fear of failure is not about failure itself. It's about the emotional meaning your past gave to failure. Maybe there was a time you gave everything and still fell short. A time someone criticized you. In a moment when you were vulnerable. A time you worked hard and nothing changed. A time you took a risk and the outcome left a mark. You still feel. Even if you don't talk about it, your mind remembers. Your body remembers. Your heart remembers. And fear appears. Not because you are weak, but because something inside you is trying to prevent you from feeling that pain again. Fear is a guard that stands in front of the door to protect you from what it believes will hurt you again. But in trying to protect you, it traps you. It tells you that avoiding effort is safer than trying again. It tells you that staying still is safer than stepping forward. It tells you that shrinking is safer than being seen. Fear of failure is not about incapacity. It's about self-protection. Gone too far. Your mind learned something from the past, but it learned the wrong lesson. It learned that failure means you're not enough. It learned that mistakes are dangerous. It learned that effort can lead to pain. But here is the truth that fear cannot see. You are not the person who failed years ago. You have grown. You have changed. You have learned. You have endured. The person you are today is far more capable than the person who experienced that pain. But fear does not update itself automatically. Fear is old software, running on a newer version of you. And the morning ritual you will learn in this journey is not just about calming fear. It's about rewriting the emotional meaning you once attached to failure. Failure is not identity. Failure is information. Failure is not humiliation. Failure is redirection. Failure is not proof of weakness. Failure is proof of courage. Fear of failure dissolves, not when the fear disappears, but when you realize that you can feel fear and still move. When you realize that trying again does not repeat the past, it rewrites it. In the next block, you'll learn the morning ritual that begins this rewriting process, a simple practice that teaches your mind that today is not yesterday, and that you are not who you used to be. Before your day begins, before your thoughts scatter, before fear has a chance to take its place at the front of your mind, you need a ritual, something simple, something quiet, something you can repeat every morning for 7 days until it becomes part of you. This ritual is not about hype. It's not about forcing confidence. It's not about pretending you're fearless. It's about grounding yourself before fear wakes up enough to guide your day. It begins with 1 minute, just one. And inside that minute, 3 simple steps. Step 1. Place your hand on your chest and breathe slowly, deeply, intentionally. Feel the rise and fall. Feel the warmth beneath your palm. This is not a meditation. It's a reminder, a physical signal that you are here, in this body, in this moment, safe enough to begin. Fear loses strength when you return to your body, because fear lives in the mind. Calm lives in the breath. Step 2. Say 1 sentence, softly, calmly, and without pressure. I am allowed to try again. You don't need to believe it fully. You don't need to feel strong. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to say it with honesty, because this sentence does not create confidence. It creates permission. Permission to try. Permission to begin imperfectly. Permission to move without demanding perfection. Fear is strongest when you believe you are not allowed to try again. This sentence rewrites that belief. Step 3. Choose 1 tiny action you will complete this morning. Something so small. Fear cannot argue with it. Not a whole task. Not a whole goal. Just a beginning. Write 1 line. Send 1 message. Open 1 document. Prepare 1 step. Your action must be small, because small actions are invisible to fear. For 7 days, you will repeat these 3 steps, and something powerful happens. When you do this consistently, your mornings stop being an open door for fear and become a grounded space of intention. You don't erase fear by fighting it. You dissolve fear by moving before it speaks. Every morning, you do this ritual. Fear arrives late. Fear loses its routine. Fear gets confused because you didn't wait for it before beginning your day. And slowly, your mind starts to change. It stops associating mornings with pressure, expectation, or old memories of disappointment. It starts associating mornings with grounding, clarity, and a gentle first step. You begin the day from alignment, not anxiety. You begin the day from presence, not panic. You begin the day from intention, not fear. And every morning you repeat this. You carve a new path in your mind, a path where fear no longer leads, but follows quietly behind you. In the next block, you'll learn why this ritual works. Not spiritually, not magically, but neurologically and emotionally, and why 7 days is enough to feel the beginning of real change. Most people try to overcome fear by forcing confidence, by repeating affirmations they don't believe, or by trying to think positive, while their chest still feels tight, and their mind still remembers the past. But fear doesn't dissolve through pressure. Fear dissolves through safety. And the morning ritual works because it gives your mind the one thing fear cannot survive: a sense of inner safety. Before the day begins, let's break down what is actually happening inside you when you do this ritual. When you place your hand on your chest and breathe slowly, your nervous system resets. Your breath tells your body, "I am not in danger." And when your body feels safe, your mind becomes quiet. Fear needs tension to survive. It needs quick breaths, racing thoughts, a scattered attention. Your breath interrupts all of that. It's not spiritual. It's physiological. The moment your breath slows, your emotional brain stops signaling threat and starts signaling presence. This is why the first step is always the breath, because fear cannot lead when your body is grounded. Then comes the sentence, "I am allowed to try again." This line works because it doesn't trigger resistance. Your mind doesn't argue with it. It doesn't feel fake, or exaggerated, or unrealistic. It feels human. It feels honest. It feels possible. The sentence does not promise success. It promises permission. Fear loses power when permission enters the room, because fear's entire job is to block the doorway, to keep you from trying. When you say, "I am allowed to try again," you quietly move past that block. You enter a new emotional reality, a gentle one, a grounded one where trying does not threaten your identity. And then comes the third step, the tiny action. This is the moment fear begins to dissolve, not because you overcame it with willpower, but because fear cannot fight something so small. A tiny action is invisible to the part of your brain that panics. It does not trigger old memories of failure. It does not activate the emotional shield of fear. It simply opens the day, just enough for movement to begin. And once movement begins, fear loses its advantage, because fear thrives in stillness. It grows in the empty space between intention and action. When you take a small step, you close that space. You show your mind that beginnings are safe. And as you repeat this every morning for 7 days, your brain starts to rewrite its relationship with effort, with failure, and with the morning itself. You are teaching your mind a new pattern: breath before fear, permission before pressure, movement before hesitation. This combination is what dissolves fear, not through force, but through alignment. You don't replace fear with confidence. You replace fear with clarity. Clarity that says, "I can begin, I can try, I can move, and I am safe enough to do so." That clarity is stronger than courage and calmer than motivation. It doesn't fade. It doesn't depend on mood. It doesn't collapse under doubt. It becomes a stable foundation inside you. In the next block, you'll discover what happens after 7 mornings, how fear begins to weaken, how your identity begins to shift, and how your relationship with failure begins to transform from the inside out. Something interesting happens. When you repeat this ritual every morning for several days, you don't just feel different, you begin to be different, not in dramatic ways, not in sudden breakthroughs, but in small, steady shifts that quietly reshape your identity, because identity is not changed by thoughts, it's changed by patterns. And every morning, you breathe, speak permission, and take one tiny step, you are creating a new pattern, one your mind cannot ignore. Fear begins to lose its argument, because your actions are telling a different story. On day 1, you still feel resistance. Fear is loud. Doubt is present. Your body hesitates. On day 2, the ritual feels unfamiliar. You're doing something new, and your mind doesn't trust it yet. But by day 3, your nervous system starts recognizing the pattern. It remembers the breath. It remembers the sentence. It remembers the tiny action. And because it remembers, fear arrives a little softer, a little slower, a little less sure of itself. By day 4, something shifts inside you. You begin to notice that starting the day doesn't feel as heavy. Your chest doesn't tighten as quickly. Your thoughts don't spiral as fast. Your emotions don't take control. Before you're awake, you feel not fearless, but less afraid. And that difference is the beginning of identity change. Because identity is not shaped by perfection. It's shaped by repetition. You begin to see yourself as someone who tries, someone who begins, someone who takes gentle action, even when fear whispers otherwise. This new identity doesn't erase fear. It just refuses to be defined by it. By day 5, the tiny action feels easier. You don't overthink it. You don't hesitate as much. You don't negotiate with yourself. You simply move. And that movement tells your mind, I am no longer the person who freezes at beginnings. On day 6, you notice something deeper. Fear no longer feels like a wall. It feels like a moment you can breathe through, a moment you can walk past, a moment you can navigate instead of avoid, because the fear of failure doesn't disappear when you're brave. It disappears when it no longer fits your self-image. And by the time you reach day 7, your identity has already begun to shift, not into someone perfect, but into someone present, not into someone fearless, but into someone capable of moving with fear. Instead of collapsing under it, you begin to understand a truth you were never taught, that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the refusal to let fear decide for you. And this is exactly what the ritual has taught your mind, that you are the one who decides your first step, not fear. This identity shift is the foundation of everything that comes next, because once you stop seeing yourself as the person defined by failure, you start seeing yourself as the person defined by movement, growth, and gentle persistence. In the next block, you'll discover how this new identity starts to influence your behavior, your mindset, and your relationship with failure throughout the entire day, not just in the morning. When your mornings begin differently, your days begin differently too. Fear used to set the tone. It used to shape the rhythm, the pace, the energy of everything that followed. But once you create a morning that centers you, before fear can speak, something shifts. Throughout the rest of your day, your mind stops bracing for impact. Your steps stop feeling heavy. Your decisions stop coming from a place of avoidance. Now, your day begins to follow your lead. instead of fears. And that single shift changes the entire landscape of your hours. On the first few days, it's subtle. You might notice that tasks feel slightly lighter, or that you start sooner than you usually would. You might notice that your chest doesn't tighten when you think about your responsibilities, or that you don't overthink simple beginnings the way you used to. You might notice that your emotions don't take over as quickly. You have just enough space to breathe before reacting. This space is the beginning of power. Fear thrives in immediacy. It wants you to react without thinking, to avoid without questioning, to retreat without understanding. But when your morning is grounded, you create a pause, a small gap between fear and action. Inside that gap, you begin to choose. And choice is the opposite of fear. With every tiny action you took in the morning, your mind learned something new. You are someone who moves. And because it learned that, your mind begins to trust you throughout the entire day. That trust changes everything. You start tasks a little earlier. You pause a little less. You recover a little faster. You no longer spiral. When something goes wrong, you adjust. You no longer freeze. When a challenge appears, you breathe. You no longer assume that failure defines you. You see it as information, guidance, feedback. This new identity creates a new flow, a flow where effort feels honest instead of forced, where setbacks feel manageable instead of overwhelming, where progress feels possible instead of intimidating. And as this flow strengthens, you begin to notice something deeper. Fear still appears, but it no longer carries authority. Its voice may whisper, its presence may return, but it does not lead, because your morning has already chosen a leader. And throughout the day, you carry the evidence your morning gave you. You began, you moved, you tried, you showed up. Those moments become the quiet proof that supports you for the next hours. They ground you when challenges appear. They steady you when doubt rises. They remind you that you are capable of taking the next step, not because fear disappeared, but because fear no longer decides. This is how your day changes. When your identity shifts, you don't need to feel strong to act strong. You don't need confidence to begin. You don't need motivation to move. You build your day the same way you built your morning, through presence, permission, and a tiny step that sets everything else in motion. In the next block, you'll learn how this new daily rhythm begins to reshape your long-term relationship with fear, failure, and the idea of trying again. As the days pass, something begins to shift between you and the idea of failure. It no longer feels like a threat. It no longer feels like a judgment. It no longer feels like a sentence waiting to fall on you. It starts to feel like a signal, a message, a moment of clarity instead of fear. This shift doesn't happen in one day. It happens quietly, in the background of your routines, as your identity grows stronger than your fear. Because failure is only terrifying when you believe that it defines you. But once your mornings are teaching you that you can move, even when you're afraid, your mind learns another truth. Failure does not define you. Movement does. And when movement becomes the foundation of how you live, failure loses its power to shape your worth. You stop seeing it as something final. You stop seeing it as something personal. You stop seeing it as something shameful. You begin to see it as part of your rhythm, part of your learning, part of your path. You start to realize that failure is not a verdict, but a mirror, a reflection showing you where you need clarity, where you need adjustment, where you need patience, where you need courage. And because your identity is no longer built on fear, but on gentle action, you approach failure with a calmer heart. You don't collapse. You don't attack yourself. You don't run away. You breathe. You observe. You choose your next step. This is the beginning of emotional maturity. Not perfection, not fearlessness, not confidence so loud that it blinds you. Just maturity. The ability to experience discomfort without being controlled by it. As this maturity grows, you start treating failure like information instead of an enemy. You ask softer questions. What is this teaching me? Where is this guiding me? What needs to change? What can I try next? And those questions open doors that fear used to keep closed. Because fear wants silence. Fear wants paralysis. Fear wants finality. But your new identity wants clarity. It wants progress. It wants truth. And when clarity and truth become your companions, failure turns into a conversation. Instead of a crisis, you begin to understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the process that shapes you into someone capable of receiving success. Once this truth sinks in, fear loses one of its strongest weapons, the illusion that failure destroys you. Because now you know. It doesn't destroy you. It grows you. It directs you. It strengthens you. And the more you live from this understanding, the lighter your steps become, the clearer your decisions feel, and the easier it is to begin again. In the next block, you'll see how this new relationship with failure starts to influence your long-term vision and your ability to build momentum that lasts far beyond these 7 days. When your relationship with failure softens, your vision for the future begins to open in ways you couldn't see before, because fear does not only limit your actions in the present, it distorts your perception of what your life could become. Fear shrinks your dreams to match your doubts. It narrows your options to match your insecurities. It filters your future through the lens of past mistakes. But once you stop treating failure as a threat and start seeing it as information, something shifts in the way you imagine your life. You begin to dream a little wider. You begin to plan a little braver. You begin to consider possibilities you once believed were out of reach, not because you suddenly feel stronger, but because you no longer assume that everything you try must work perfectly on the first attempt. You're no longer fragile. Your progress is no longer delicate. Your confidence is no longer conditional. This new perspective creates space for a different kind of vision, a vision built on growth, not on fear of disappointment. You start asking bigger questions. What if I gave myself more time? What if progress is allowed to be slow? What if I don't need certainty to begin shaping the life I want? These questions expand your horizon. They give you emotional permission to imagine a future that used to intimidate you. Because the truth is simple. Fear doesn't just stop you from acting. It stops you from dreaming. And once fear loosens its grip, your mind naturally reaches for something higher, something fuller, something more aligned with the person you are becoming. You begin to develop a long-term vision that feels grounded instead of overwhelming. You realize you don't need a perfect roadmap. You don't need unshakable confidence. You don't need to know exactly how everything will unfold. You only need what you've already been practicing each morning: presence, permission, one small step. And when you extend this rhythm into your long-term goals, something powerful happens. Your dreams stop being fantasies. They become projects. Your goals stop being intimidating. They become sequences of tiny actions. Your ambitions stop feeling unrealistic. They become reachable because you finally trust your ability to keep moving. Fear can no longer tell you that you're not capable. Your daily movement has already proven otherwise. This proof begins to reshape your vision from the inside out. You stop planning defensively. You start planning intentionally. You stop trying to avoid failure. You start trying to create growth. You stop imagining a future where everything goes wrong. You start imagining a future where you learn, adjust, and arrive, imperfect, but present. And that presence is what makes long-term success not only possible, but sustainable. In the next block, you'll discover how this new vision begins to influence your environment, your habits, and the emotional foundation on which you build your life. When your vision expands, your environment starts to respond to it, not because the world changes first, but because you do. The moment you stop living from fear and begin living from quiet direction, your habits, your surroundings, and even the people around you begin to shift in subtle but powerful ways. You start noticing which parts of your environment feed your growth and which parts pull you back into old patterns. You begin to feel a quiet need to declutter your life, not just the physical space, but the emotional space you've been carrying. You clean small corners. You reorder your desk. You open windows just to let a bit more light in. These tiny changes might look insignificant, but they reflect something deeper. Your inner world is becoming clearer, so your outer world starts matching that clarity. Your habits shift too. You begin choosing actions that support your new identity. You stop negotiating with your mornings. You stop punishing yourself for slow days. You stop quitting because things feel uncomfortable. Instead, you choose consistency over intensity. You choose alignment over urgency. You choose direction over impulse. And these choices slowly rebuild the architecture of your life. You may catch yourself taking breaks intentionally instead of escaping mentally. You may notice you handle pressure with a calmer mind. You may start giving yourself space to rest without labeling it as weakness. These shifts happen because your new relationship with fear creates emotional room for better habits to grow. Fear once demanded that you react. Now you're learning to respond. Fear once pushed you into rushed decisions. Now you're learning to choose with clarity. Fear once made you believe that any setback was evidence you weren't good enough. Now you see setbacks as part of the rhythm that builds strength. As your habits evolve, your long-term direction becomes more grounded. You're no longer building a life based on avoidance. You're building a life based on intention. And an intentional life looks different in every small detail. the messages you consume, the routines you follow, the conversations you allow, the energy you protect. You start moving toward environments that support the person you're becoming instead of the person you're trying to outgrow. You gravitate toward peace instead of noise. You want clarity instead of distraction. You seek truth instead of comfort. These changes may feel slow at first, but they accumulate, they compound, they create momentum that flows naturally through your days. And as this momentum grows, something powerful happens. Your life begins to feel less like a series of reactions and more like a path you're consciously walking, a path guided not by fear of failure, but by a steady sense of inner direction. In the next block, you'll see how this new structure begins to influence your emotions, your self-worth, and the quiet confidence that grows from living in alignment with who you truly are. As your environment and your habits begin to shift, your emotions follow, not suddenly, not dramatically, but quietly, like a sunrise spreading across a dark room. Because emotional healing rarely arrives with fireworks. It arrives in silence, in small moments where you realize you're responding differently than you used to. Maybe you don't spiral as quickly. Maybe you breathe before reacting. Maybe you pause instead of collapsing into old patterns. These small moments are signs that your emotional foundation is rebuilding itself from the inside out. Fear once shaped your entire emotional world. It dictated your reactions. It defined your self-worth. It whispered that failure was a reflection of who you were. But now, your daily movement is teaching your emotions a different truth. You are not fragile. You are not powerless. You are not defined by hesitation. Each morning, you chose action, even when you were afraid, became a quiet message to your nervous system. You are capable. You can begin. You can move. And your emotions eventually listened. As fear loosens its grip, your self-worth has room to breathe. You start to see that your value was never tied to perfection. Your worth was never tied to flawless execution. Your significance was never tied to outcomes that went exactly as planned. Your worth comes from your presence, your resilience, your willingness to try again. As this understanding deepens, your emotions gain stability. You feel less panic when things go wrong. You feel less shame when you need to slow down. You feel less urgency to prove yourself. Instead, you feel a quiet strength growing inside you. A strength that doesn't need recognition. A strength that doesn't need applause. A strength that doesn't require the absence of fear to move forward. This strength comes from alignment, from acting in harmony with your values, your identity, and your quiet inner truth. As this alignment grows, your confidence shifts too. It stops being loud. It stops being dramatic. It stops being conditional. It becomes soft, steady, internal. Confidence that doesn't scream because it doesn't need to. Confidence that comes from knowing that you can begin again, no matter how many times you fall. Confidence that lives in your chest like a warm breath, reminding you that you are capable of carrying your life with intention. You stop depending on moments of motivation. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop asking fear for permission. And this emotional shift changes your relationship with yourself. You begin to treat yourself with more patience, more compassion, more truth. You stop punishing yourself for slow days and start honoring them as part of your growth. You stop comparing your journey to anyone else's and start trusting your own pace. You stop expecting instant breakthroughs and start celebrating the quiet steps that move your life forward. This emotional foundation is what allows you to build a life that is stable, present, and aligned. In the next block, you'll explore how this new emotional strength begins to influence your decisions, your relationships, and the way you show up in the world, not with fear-driven urgency, but with calm, clarity, and purpose. As your emotions stabilize and your self-worth begins to heal, you start showing up in the world in ways you never expected, not because you became a different person overnight, but because you finally learned how to move through life without fear holding the steering wheel. Your decisions change first. They stop coming from urgency, pressure, or the need to avoid disappointment. Instead, your choices begin to reflect your values, your direction, and the quiet clarity you've been building. Morning after morning, you choose what aligns, not what numbs. You choose what supports you, not what distracts you. You choose what feels true, not what feels easy. And these choices, even when they're small, begin to create a different atmosphere around your life. People feel it, you feel it, life feels it, because when your inner world becomes steady, your outer world starts responding to that steadiness. Your relationships shift too. You stop needing constant reassurance. You stop seeking approval in every direction. You stop attaching your worth to how well you're received. Instead, you begin to show up with presence instead of fear, with honesty instead of performance, with calm instead of emotional chaos. You listen more clearly. You communicate more gently. You set boundaries without guilt. You let go of what drains you. And because you aren't reacting from a place of fear, your connections become deeper, simpler, more grounded. Even your relationship with yourself starts to mature. You stop rushing into self-criticism. You stop magnifying your mistakes. You stop interpreting every setback as a personal flaw. You begin treating yourself the way you would treat someone you respect, with patience, with truth, with compassion. This new relationship with yourself creates a different kind of presence in your life. Presence that doesn't hide. Presence that doesn't shrink. Presence that doesn't apologize for existing. You walk differently. You breathe differently. You carry yourself with a quiet confidence that doesn't ask for attention because it comes from a deeper place. Alignment. And with alignment comes purpose. Not a dramatic purpose. Not a destiny shouted from mountaintops. A quieter purpose. The kind that grows from knowing yourself, trusting yourself, and moving through life with intention instead of fear. You start noticing what truly matters to you. You start recognizing where your energy belongs. You start releasing the noise you used to confuse with direction. This clarity doesn't come from motivation, comes from healing. Because when fear stops running your decisions, your true desires finally have room to speak. And when they speak, they guide you toward the life you were always meant to build. A life not defined by fear of failure, but by the courage to take gentle steps in the direction that feels true. In the next block, you'll see how this new way of living begins to expand your sense of purpose, your capacity for gratitude, and your ability to create a future that feels meaningful, sustainable, and deeply yours. As you begin showing up differently in your day-to-day life, something subtle starts awakening inside you, a sense of purpose that grows quietly, almost without effort. It doesn't arrive as a lightning strike or a grand revelation. It arrives as a gentle knowing, a soft awareness that your life is moving in a direction that finally feels honest. Purpose isn't something you chase. It's something you uncover when fear stops blocking your view. And now, with your mornings grounded, your emotions steady, and your decisions aligned, purpose begins to rise like a whisper from the deeper parts of you. You start noticing what truly energizes you, what genuinely matters, what feels meaningful in a way you can't explain, but you can feel. This feeling is not loud, it's not dramatic, it's not urgent, it's calm, stable, present. You begin to understand that purpose is not found in perfect outcomes or big achievements. Purpose lies in direction, in intention, in the small steps you take each day toward becoming someone who aligns with truth instead of fear. And as purpose grows, gratitude follows. Gratitude not for perfection, but for progress. Not for certainty, but for clarity. Not for everything going right, but for the strength you discovered in learning to continue when things go wrong. Gratitude becomes a natural response to the new way you're living. You begin to appreciate the simple things, the breath that steadies you, the moments of pause that calm you, the small victories that used to go unnoticed. You feel grateful for the days that would have broken you before, but now only slow you down without destroying you. You feel grateful for the times you tried, even when you were afraid. You feel grateful for the mornings that taught you how to begin again. And this gratitude creates expansion. Expansion in your perspective. Expansion in your emotional capacity. Expansion in your ability to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You start realizing that life isn't something you need to control. It's something you learn to meet with presence and quiet courage. This is the point where the fear of failure loses even more power, because you understand that your life is not defined by what you avoid. It's shaped by what you face. With intention, purpose, and gratitude blend together to create a new internal landscape, one where you feel a deeper connection to the person you're becoming and to the path you're choosing to walk. You're no longer surviving your days. You're participating in them. You're no longer bracing for impact. You're moving with intention. You're no longer begging life to be easier. You're becoming stronger in a calm, grounded way that doesn't demand force or perfection. This new state is the beginning of a more complete version of you, a version that trusts the process, honors the journey, and carries gratitude as a quiet, steady companion. In the next block, you'll see how all of this begins to integrate even deeper, shaping the way you see yourself, your future, and the path ahead, with clarity, peace, and a sense of inner certainty that lasts. There comes a moment in every journey of growth when things begin to connect in ways you didn't expect, not with sudden clarity, but with a quiet recognition that something inside you has shifted for good. This moment is called integration, when all the small steps, the gentle mornings, the new habits, the softened fears, and the rising purpose begin to form a single, coherent direction within you. You no longer feel like you're trying to become someone new. You begin to feel like you're returning to someone you've always been, but had forgotten. There's a calmness in this realization, a sense of inner alignment that doesn't need to be explained to be understood. You feel it in the way you breathe, in the way you walk, in the way you show up in your own life. Integration doesn't shout. It settles. It roots. It stabilizes. It allows your mind and your emotions and your choices to move together instead of against each other. This harmony is what you've been building without noticing, one morning at a time. It shows up when you catch yourself responding with patience instead of panic. It shows up when you choose clarity over avoidance. It shows up when you don't collapse at the first sign of discomfort, because you've learned that discomfort is not a sign to stop. It's a sign to stay present. Integration means you're no longer fighting yourself. You're no longer forcing change. You're embodying it. You begin to feel a deeper connection to your direction. Your values feel clearer. Your standards become stronger. Your choices feel more intentional. It's not that life stops being challenging. It's that you've developed a new inner strength that helps you face challenges without losing yourself. Fear still appears, but you recognize it now. You see it for what it is, a passing feeling, not a defining truth. Doubt still visits, but it doesn't take over, because you've built a new foundation that doubt cannot shake easily. And in this stage of integration, something else becomes clear. You begin to trust yourself in a way you never did before. Not blindly, not with arrogance, but with a quiet certainty that whatever comes, you can meet it with presence, with breath, with alignment. This trust doesn't need reassurance. It grows from lived experience, from the mornings you didn't give up, from the steps you took afraid, from the moments you kept moving, even when fear wanted you still. All these pieces come together now, forming a deeper sense of who you are and who you are becoming. You can feel the shift. You can sense the depth. You can recognize the growth. Integration is the beginning of inner stability, a place where you don't need to prove anything, achieve anything, or force anything to feel aligned. You simply live from the truth you've been practicing. In the next block, you'll learn how this integration creates a long-lasting peace, a grounded certainty, and a relationship with yourself that continues to grow long after the 7 days are over.